Going to go into the program. Our first speaker is IAM Political Director, Rick Fuente. He's been an IAM member for 24 years. And one of the doctors, so he does a great job. You guys all know him. We'll look it up.
He's got it.
Thanks, Alex. It's like I haven't been here the first time. But I do want to thank you for the money that you raised last year. Last time I was here, I didn't have the numbers for you. So we closed out the books for this. And nationally, we raised a little over, we raised $2,458,000, just a little bit over that, about $200 over that. And here in the state of Wisconsin, you raised, and this is your exact figure for last year, $56,830.82. I want to thank you for that. It's good, and I want to remind you too, if you have a check up in your contract, that now would be a good time to do it. It's a presidential election year. There's a lot at stake this time because of the fact that the Republicans control the Senate right now, and they also control the House. The last thing we want to see is that we get the presidency, because then it can just be chaos. And with Trump, I'm not sure which way to go then. And most likely we will be Trump too. The bad news is that we have another right-to-work state, and that was West Virginia. It fell about 2 weeks ago, so now we have 26 nationally in the country. We were able to save New Mexico. They also tried to face right to work. We were able to beat that about 2 weeks ago. And West Virginia, they actually had a Democratic governor, Earl Ray Tomlin. He vetoed it, but in West Virginia, it's just a simple majority to override it in the House and Senate. So they overrode his veto. So now there's 26 right to work for less states. So that's not good, because now we're over 50%. And I talked about that when we got to those things. So that there we are. But I guess everybody wants to talk about the presidency for a little bit. And as you know, we endorsed Hillary Clinton. And the reason why I do want to tell you, we did 2 polls with our members, 2 separate pollsters. And both pollsters, one came back 72% of our members wanted us to endorse Hillary. The others came back 68% wanted us to endorse Hillary. We brought everybody, the leadership, up to New York City. We called Hillary and asked her to come speak to them. We had to vote after she got done speaking to them. We didn't tell anybody or her that we were going to have that vote, and it was unanimous consent. And what that means, there was nobody didn't want except for Hillary. And the big reason is, for those of you who don't know, and I know Bernie Sanders is real good. He does a lot of good stuff for us, but I do want to tell you that basically Bernie is bad on defense, and for the past 20 years he's been up there. He always wants to cut defense spending by about 50%. And we represent a lot of defense. I mean, we represent Lockheed Martin, the Boeing, we represent Bass shipyards up in Maine, we represent the Pratt Whitneys and the GEs and those engines that go into those aircraft, our ships also, and then we represent like Raytheon out in Arizona. They build weapon systems. So building aircraft and ships and engines, there's a lot of subcontractors too, and we represent a lot of them. So we're actually the largest defense union in the defense industry. So and Hillary was always there as a U.S. Senator. She voted for defense. So that was the 2 biggest reasons. The other one was he was against the EXIM Bank. We support the EXIM Bank because we represent Boeing, who uses it the most, GE, Caterpillar, and John Deere. And we have members in all those unions, or in all those companies. So really we had to go that way because Hillary in the Senate, once again, was for it. So that's how we got to where we are. And I do want to tell you, and I know there's some Bernie people out there, but I do want to be honest with you, it's all coming to an end by, well, Super Tuesday. You could look for, and I've tracked all the polls, she'll pretty much carry all 7 southern states by huge margins. Georgia probably over 40, Virginia over 20, Texas over 25, Oklahoma, Tennessee. Well, Bernie's got a shot in Oklahoma, but not much, but it won't be as bad as the other states. Tennessee, she'll over 20, and those are the southern states. And then he will carry Vermont, because that state goes that night too. And this is Super Tuesday. Massachusetts, he had a lead there. That's a dead heat now. I think they'll break for Hillary there. And then the only other 2 states left, and they're really hard to get, because they're caucus states. And that's where you actually have to go to caucus. And I would say that, after the blowout, she won by 49 points, almost 50 points last night. That's a blowout in federal politics. And I think that, in Minnesota, he's got a shot there because it is a caucus state. And Minnesota's a very liberal state also, much like Wisconsin. And also, you know, they did elect Jesse Ventura as their governor one time. So I never try to predict Minnesota. Colorado is another state that's a caucus state. A lot of Latinos there. It's hard to get polling. And I will tell you this, and I saw it, what's happening is the same thing that always happens. The young people, 18 to 34, the millennials basically, they're coming to all the rallies and feeling all good and everything, and they're doing the same thing. They're not coming out to vote. Okay? So and I just was in Nevada for those caucuses, and the same thing happened there in Nevada. And I called some people that were banging on doors and stuff, and in Nevada, you had to be there in the room by 12 noon on Saturday. A lot of the young people said, that's my only day off, I'm not going to go. I want to go, but I stayed out too late on Friday night, so I just figured I'd tweet somebody and see if they'll go. So the numbers are really, what they are. Older people tend to break for Hillary. And then, of course, it's, you know, he is getting more people energized as far as the young people, but they're falling into that same pattern. And I do want to say I've tracked this for 20 years. Between 18 and 34 young people, they turn out, the highest they've ever turned out is 13.9%. So that means for every 100, 13 are coming out to vote. Almost 14. And those are showing up the same caucuses here that we have right now. So when Super Tuesday comes, these numbers are going to be really, really big as far as in the South. And that's where a lot of the picture's going to be really, really ugly. And Bernie's running out of money, okay? And so everybody, the money doesn't keep coming. It's $27 average that he's been getting. A lot of people are saying, you know, that was fun, but let's move on to something else right now. So he'll run out of money. And I don't think he'll concede on Tuesday, but by the 15th, when we get to March 15th, that's going to seal the deal completely. And that's when Ohio goes, Missouri goes, Illinois goes, Florida goes, and North Carolina on the 15th. She has huge leads in all those states. He doesn't have the money anymore to play in all those states. And before that, another measuring point will be when Louisiana and Michigan go. They go up just a few days before then. She'll carry Louisiana huge numbers. Michigan, she's up really big. So it's going to come to an end here as far as the Bernie fans. And I can sit there and tell you that, you know, that everything's not going to be free, because it's not going to be free. And college isn't going to be free. Healthcare is not going to be free, because in the real world, nothing is free. I mean, somebody has to pay for it. And Bernie kind of said that, you know, how am I going to pay for it is raise taxes. So basically what you're saying is that everybody's working is going to be raised taxes, and they're going to pay for everybody who wants something for free. So what I call those are very expensive fantasies. And the thing about fantasies is that once you actually do them or live them, then they're no longer fantasies, so you lose your fantasies. So with that, that's where the race is heading. And I do know that there are people, I do want to remind you though, that keep young people excited, because I will say this, voter turnout has been very dismal for the Democratic Party, all right? And the Republicans, Trump is, all kinds of new people are registering to vote. They're very excited, they're very mobilized, and they're coming out hard, huge numbers in the Republican primaries. And Democrats, they're just being, you know, the turnout is very bad, and you have to have enthusiasm when you go into the general election. And right now, I would have to say that most likely I think Trump is just about unstoppable. The news and the press and the political pundits and the talking heads like to give you all this what-if world of what if we do the convention, what if this, but in the end, unless something very, very bizarre happens, their nominee is going to be Donald Trump. And you can't take him lightly, because I will say this, he's hit into what people, you know, he speaks off the cuff, and he doesn't really have a plan, he doesn't have any type of agenda, he doesn't need one, because, and I'll tell you why, it's because people are very, very frustrated with, especially in the Republican Party, they're very, very frustrated with the Republicans. And I learned that in a little town called last November when I stopped in Young Harris, Georgia, way up in the Appalachian Mountains for the Georgia State Council Machinists. I stopped to get apples on the side of the road because I had my wife, I was coming from Alabama State Council. She wanted to stop at this little flea market way up there in the mountains. And me and the guys got to talking, and they told me, they said, you know, I asked them that, well, they brought up Trump, and they said, we're all Trump people up here. And I said, well, you guys are like classified as white evangelical Christians. They said, we're all Christians. They said, but we're all voting for Trump. And I said, why is that? And they said, because we're sick and tired of the Republican Party. They said the establishment has told us over and over again, we're going to bring down the deficit, we're going to get rid of Obamacare, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but the same thing happens. They don't do anything. And they said, we're fed up with it. And it was kind of like, they said, you're kind of like Moses. You're here at the top of the mountain, and when you go back down, tell them what we said, that we're coming after them, and hell's coming with us. So I went and I told the Republican Party there on the Hill what was coming. Of course, they didn't believe me because that was an early part of November, and they were still stuck that they thought that Jeb Bush would be their nominee. But they're actually fulfilling their promise, and now I truly believe that and you see that, he's carrying evangelical Christians too, which is very, very unusual, especially when you have somebody like Ted Cruz in there, because he could use, that's what he was going to count on to get in there. So with that, that's where kind of the presidential race will be, and we need to make sure we're mobilized though, and the young people need to actually come out, and don't let, just because Bernie's going to go away, don't let that stop you from participating in the election come November. On the Senate side, basically the Democrats will need to pick up, if they lose the presidency, they will need to pick up 5 U.S. Senate seats to take back the Senate. And if they don't, they only need to pick up 4, because the vice president would be the tiebreaker there. And where we are doing battleground is right here in this state, which Feingold has polled right at 49 to 51 consistently now. And Johnson, I know him, he's pretty much kind of told me that, I'm just going to let the chips fall where they may. So I really think Feingold will win here, but that's a huge race, a huge pickup. In Illinois, I think that we'll be able to knock off Kirk too. Tammy Duckworth, she's a U.S. congressman. So I actually have these 2 states already picking up 2 senators when we get to election day. The rest of them aren't going to be so easy because we're going to play in Ohio. Strickland, the former governor and the former U.S. congressman, he's well known in that state. What's really weird about that is Portman is outraising him like 14 to 1, but Strickland, it's a dead heat. It's staying a dead heat. So he has state name recognition, and he also was the former governor, and I think that, that'll be a good state to play in. But that's always a little bit shaky, Ohio. It could go either way. And then in Pennsylvania, we're playing there too. And when I say we're, I mean the National Party too. I don't mean just the Machinists Union, okay? That's where the National Party is going to put the money into. And so Pennsylvania, it'll be, well, the party didn't like Joe Sestak. We endorsed him. And that goes back to when Specter said, I don't know if you remember this, Specter said, I'm going to run as a Democrat. He was a Republican senator. He died shortly thereafter anyway. But we were behind Sestak. We were the only union to do that. And it was funny because the National AFL-CIO, everybody, the president, everybody was out there campaigning for Specter. And I told him that that wasn't going to work because Pennsylvania's a closed primary state. And so only Democrats can vote in the primary. And you can't tell Democrat, especially primary voters, because those people come out no matter what. That's why they're primary voters. And they're hardcore to either to the R's or to the D's. And they've been telling the party for 22 years, don't vote for Specter, you're Republican. Now all of a sudden you tell them, oh yeah, go ahead and vote for Specter, he's a Democrat. That's insulting people's intelligence. So they went ahead with Sestak. He just missed Toomey, knocking off Toomey by 3 points. That was an off election year. So now it's going to be a presidential. Pennsylvania usually goes blue. The party has went and recruited this other lady, Katie McGinty, I think her name is, and she's like the blessed one, but I don't think she's going to beat him in the primary because, once again, it's the establishment that chose her, and it's kind of the mood all around the country, that the establishment isn't making all these right decisions. And a lot of reasons because they're not listening to what voters are saying. So that'll be in play. And then in Florida, we're going to play down there too. And here it's going to be interesting because Rubio, he's given up his Senate seat. He's the other guy running for president on the Republican side, for those who don't know. And but he's given up his seat, and we got 2 pretty good. They're good on all of our issues. Alan Grayson, he's a firebrand liberal, and then we got Patrick Murphy. Both of these are U.S. congressmen. Both are Democrats. And Patrick Murphy is basically, he's a more moderate. He's good on our issues as far, but what they're going to do, the National Republican Party, they told me, is they're going to, because Patrick Murphy used to be a Republican, and then he became a Democrat, but what they're going to do in the general election, they actually think that Patrick Murphy would be the stronger candidate. So the super PACs are coming in to try to tear him down So Alan Grayson actually wins the Democratic primary, and then the general election, the Republican strategy is we could vote on that Senate seat. Makes sense. I can see that we did it too. Democrats do it too. Sometimes we did it in Missouri. We tore down people, well, the National Party did, to get Todd Aiken. And then Todd Aiken, of course, said there is such thing as legitimate rape, and boom, he was done. So Claire McCaskill won that then by 23 points. She really would have lost that race, though. So both parties do it, and that's the strategy there. And then in New Hampshire, we're going to have to play there because Maggie Hansen has stepped down for the governorship race, and she'll be taking on Kelly Aho. Both are well-liked. It's going to be an interesting race up there. Kelly Aho is a U.S. Senator, well-liked. Maggie Hansen, Governor, well-liked. So then she's stepping down, and that'll open up that seat. So we're going to have to defend the governor's race there too. But those will be the big six, the National Party, and most people are going to play them. You also got to watch Nevada because Harry Reid, he's stepping down. He's a Democrat Senate. He was a Senate Majority Leader. Now he's a Senate Minority Leader. Nevada is kind of a strange state too. The big Democratic base is right there where the Strip is, which is Clark County, and then everything else is pretty much Republican once you get outside of Clark County. So that'll be we're going to play there too because if things go right and Harry Reid can turn on the machine, and he does have a machine there, then it'll be okay. But it'll still be close because I remember when that Sharon Angle took him on, she didn't lose by much, and he had to really turn on the machine to get it going. And then there's also another race as Ann Kirkpatrick. She's a U.S. Congressman down there in Arizona. She's going to take on John McCain. It's Arizona. I'm going to watch the race, and if she gets traction, she's got the money to compete against McCain, but McCain is like a fixture down there in Arizona. So they don't like him, to be honest with you, but they just keep voting for him. Why, I don't know. But I guess there hasn't really been a good challenger from the Republican side. But like I said, Ann Kirkpatrick, she's a U.S. Congresswoman, and she's going to take him on in there. So that's another one. There'll be a few other Senate races that like California. Feinstein's going, so our boxer's going to retire. So that's a solid blue state. So we don't have to worry there or anything like that. Now on the governorships, we're going to play in the two pinnacle ones. The shining star with the National Party and everybody else is going to play. It's going to be in Missouri, and it's going to be in North Carolina. And Missouri is because Jay Nixon's term limited out. He's a Democrat. And we got Chris Koster. He's the Attorney General of the state name recognition. And Missouri a lot of times will vote for Democrats at that governorship, at that level. But they may not go that way in the presidential with the presidents and the federal candidates, but a lot of times they'll go there with it. So Koster's got a pretty good race. The Republicans got a primary, and they're all cutting each other up. And I've looked at all of them. I don't think any of them are really any good that could actually beat Koster. But it is Missouri. It is a presidential. That's where they're going to pour the money in. They're also going to pour it in North Carolina because McCrory, he's the current governor. And what he did, they disenfranchised voters. He made it real difficult to vote in North Carolina, moved everything all around. You need this, you need that, you need 50 cents. And a lot of silly stuff, but it really affects a lot of people. It disenfranchises voters. So the Attorney General there, he does have state name recognition. Roy Cooper, he's been polling right anywhere from even to 2 points behind to 2 points ahead now for about a year. So they're going to play there. They think they have a shot there to take out that governor there too. Another one that'll be on the site is up there in Montana. We got a billionaire. In Montana, we got a Democratic governor, Bullock. He's very, very good. On labor's issue, actually on everybody's issue, but labor in particular. And a billionaire is going to go ahead and try to buy the seat there in Montana. There's only about less than 1 million people in that state and about 750,000 registered voters in Montana. And that's kind of a unique state. I don't really think they're going to like that a billionaire is going to try to buy it. But, some people, you could do it if you just put the airwaves up there, so that'll be in play too. And then in West Virginia, Tomlin, the guy who just vetoed the right to work for less, he's term limited out. But I think that's going to be a safe Democrat because a guy named Jim Justice, he's a billionaire. He's going to go ahead and buy that governor's seat too there in West Virginia. West Virginia don't need a lot of money, but he's a billionaire, so that's pretty safe. And then up in New Hampshire, we'll have to play for the governorship there too. And the reason why governorships are so important now is because the Republicans control 31, and that's why we see right to work and all these anti-worker bills and basically it don't matter if you're a worker, they're anti-against you. And you know, they're being funded by the Koch brothers, but they control 31 governorships right now. The Democrats control 18. There's one independent up there in Alaska. And what else has happened in the country is over the period of, since kind of Obama's been in office, I want to say, the Democrats have lost a little over 1,000 state legislative reps in the state house and the state senate. So of the 31 governorships the Republicans control, they actually have total control of the House and the Senate in 24 of those states. So that's why a lot of anti-worker legislation has been passed, and that's why it will continue to pass till the Democrats get back control of that. I'm not saying they'll do anything for us because they tend to be spineless, but the one thing that they won't do is they won't attack us. And under Republicans, not all Republicans, because there's good ones too, there's bad Democrats too, but they'll attack, and we see that going on right now. So that's why governorships are very, very important. And then on the House side, the Democrats are 30 seats short in the U.S. House. And realistically, there's only about 27 that are going to be in play this election cycle. So the Democrats have absolutely no shot at taking back the House unless something very bizarre, really, really, really weird happen. But I don't see anything happening like that. So they have no shot at taking back the House. And right now I got them, it's early, but I kind of give them, they might pick up 5 seats to 7 seats right now. Of course, everything is very fluid, so, and politicians are very good at blowing themselves up, especially when they're going against challengers and stuff. But the Dems won't take back the House. You can take that to the bank. So with that, I do want to remind you too that we're going to have our legislative conference in May. We always have it there. And it's important that we have locals, and I know that costs a little bit of money, but the Machinists Union, you know, we're strong up there on the Hill, and it shows our presence, and we go and lobby, and for those of you who've never done it, so if you're local or district, remind them when the call letter comes for the legislative conference, because we actually just sent it out a week ago, so you should have it by now, but that's important too, especially in election year, for the simple reason that, see, we have to go and talk about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which that's the big, giant trade agreement that Obama's saying is a wonderful thing, which really is a horrible thing for workers. And I noticed that the White House was very, very quiet. We're here in Indiana. The Carrier just announced that they're going to go ahead and close down the Carrier air conditioning. They make air conditioning. They're closing it entirely down in Indiana. 2,200 jobs, the plant and everything. It's all going to Mexico. Oh, Wisconsin. Oh, all right. See, I didn't know about Wisconsin. See, it just, and you don't hear them talking about it. And I warned, and I told Hillary the other day, because I know the campaign people, I worked with them, all of them have been on the Hill before, so I know Robbie Mook, who's the campaign manager and all of them, and I kind of told them, I said, you need to tell Hillary to get out in front of this, because you hear Trump talking about it when he's doing states, he's talking about, you know, we're getting screwed on trade, China's manipulating the currency, that's where the biggest problem is. They don't even address that in the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement. But Obama would like to have it passed before the election. I don't see that happening because even if you're a Republican, you can go down very, very easily, and you probably would go down if you had to vote on that trade agreement before. Right now they don't have the vote. So what they usually do when that happens is they wait till after the election. Then it's called the lame duck session, and then everybody lost, no matter how you vote. That's usually how they pass garbage like that. So I don't see it coming up, like I said, before the election. But Obama wants to push it. He's got Biden out there pushing the Democrats. Go ahead and walk the plank. Go ahead and walk the plank. And do it for the party. You know, and that's part of the problem too, I think, here is with both parties, is that everybody wants to be loyal to the party. Nobody wants to be loyal to the citizens here in this country. And you see this vengeance being lashed out, especially on the Republican side. And then it's kind of a little bit there too, you know, with Bernie coming out there against Hillary Clinton, and she's an establishment candidate, I will say that. And hopefully, I do have faith in the American people. When we do get to the Trump, Hillary, and I do think that most Americans will say, I would rather have some experience there and somebody that's been through the channels more so than just this bombastic guy who likes to say things and yell and scream and things like that. That might not happen, because I want to tell you, a lot of people are upset out there because neither party's really listening to the people, and neither party's really doing anything for anybody, especially the middle class, because the Democrats are losing middle class voters by the boatload, and it's specifically because of the health care bill. And that's just the gift that just keeps on giving. And me and Podesta, he's a big shot with the Hillary campaign too. We had a little bit of fight the other day, a bit of disagreement on stuff, and I had to lay out the facts to Tony, or to John Podesta, and he was in denial too. But same thing when I had a little meeting with Obama's chief of staff, McCreary, whatever his name is, but Dennis, he's the chief of staff to Obama. And it was funny because Nancy Pelosi and we had this little meeting, and there was me, and not just me, other people there, about a room this big, about this many people, a lot of congressman leadership sitting over here, Pelosi, everybody. She was so happy that Dennis was coming, chief of staff to Obama. So then she said, well, let's start off with the questions. So I raised my hand. I said, hey, let's talk about that health care bill that's killing you. And, you know, and he was just kind of, well, we're going to blah, blah, blah. And then it got a little bit heated. And Nancy jumped in. Oh, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about something else. Ricky made your point. And I said, okay, let's talk about the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement now. So you know where that went. It was all downhill from then. And it was all downhill before. But, you know, they're trained to stay on message, to stay on the talking points, especially if you work for the President of the United States as the chief of staff. So that's basically what he did. He just stayed on message, and he didn't want to hear anything that was the real world, because he's never really been in the real world. His whole life he's been in the bubble in Washington, D.C. And people that have been there that long are out of the real world. They hang around with people that are always talking about what's going on in D.C. and they just don't care about America. So Dennis, I told him, you know, you're wrong on that too. So that's where that ended. But it was interesting. It was fun. It was fun. It's fun to fire missiles up there, to be honest with you. Because I will say this, a lot of times when they have people in there, especially international presidents, when they should speak up, they don't. We always do. The Machinists, when we have the opportunity, we always speak up in a professional manner. And then what happens is after you walk out of the room, wait a go, man. Wait a you're good. And I always say, I thought you would jump in. I let it open, but you know, they were quiet. When you're quiet in Washington, D.C., and when you're with that much power and you don't say nothing, see, they just assume that you accept everything they're saying. And that's not the way it is, because I'm actually trying, like I tell Pelosi and them, I'm actually trying to help to save the Democratic Party from themselves. And, you know, I point out that, here's a good example. 80% of the people in this country that are subsidized on the health care bill, not only are they not registered to vote, they don't even vote. So that's so politically you get nothing from that. Kentucky's a great state. They had the shining star of state exchanges set up. The guy who ran Levin for governor, a Republican, and knocked off the Democrat, Chamberlain, his whole campaign was, I'm going to shut it down, I'm going to shut it down, I'm going to shut it down. There were 500,000 people signed up on that state exchange. You would have thought they would have went and registered to vote and came out to vote to save their own health care, which actually was working really good in the state of Kentucky. Instead, what they do, they stayed home. Less than 1 million people voted. He's the governor now of Kentucky, and he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He's starting to shut the whole thing down, the state exchange there in Kentucky. And now these people are going, oh, well, wait a minute, I didn't know. They knew. His whole campaign was that. So this is a good example of the people that on complacency, and like I tell the party, you get nothing from it politically, nothing. And I would say this, the 3 good things that are keeping your kids on till 26, no caps, and then nobody can be denied. Those are the 3 good things in there. The rest of it is pretty much make the middle class pay for the whole damn bill. And, let the insurance companies still control everything. Because you see it right now, and I know there's people right here, right now, that the insurance has suddenly said, you've been on the medicine for 10, or your spouse for 20 years, or your parents, and they're saying, you know what, we don't want to cover that medicine anymore, so we're taking that off the list. Then your doctor has to write this long essay and send it up to the insurance company, and still wait for them to decide whether a lot of people are upset with that too. So with that, I'm going to shut up in case anybody's got a question or anything. If you got a question, ask a question. Anything? You may have a different opinion. No, well, Brian's not here, so I guess we're not going to get into I appreciate it. Thanks for the money. Thanks for everything you do. And I do know that, I will say this, by the time August gets here, I think your primary is the 26th. I'm not sure about the date, but I know it's August. And
April.
It's going to be over. As far as the presidential, and like I said, most likely it's going to be March 15th.
Oh, is it?
It'll officially be over. You may hang on just a little bit. You may have a little bit of change left. With that, thank you very much. Oh, do you have a question?
Isn't in April? They changed?
On the Hillary side, they're looking at, who they're looking at is Sherrod Brown. He's the United States Senator from Ohio. He's with us on everything. He's anti-trade. He says unless you start writing these enforceable provisions in trade, he's been with this all the time, Sherrod Brown. And a lot of people say you can't win in Ohio by being against free trade. Sherrod Brown said, I'll show you how you win because they just don't understand what's happening. But in Ohio, all you got to do is say, remember that plant down there? Look, it's closed. Remember that plant? It's gone too. So Ohio's been very, very, and they're also looking at, there's Sherrod Brown she's looking at. Also, she's looking at Joaquin Castro, one of the Castro brothers. The one is the cabinet level position of the Housing, Urban, and Development. The other one is a U.S. congressman. So those are the two that I know for sure that they're looking at. Now, there's other ones that they probably are looking at too, but you got to remember they got to vet them. You have to be vetted, and if there's any kind of dirt or any kind of something, you got to be pretty squeaky clean. But so far, that's what she's looking at. We had Joaquin Castro, one of the Castro brothers, and either the congressman or the HUD guy, because he was the mayor of San Antonio. But Sherrod Brown too. Sherrod Brown would be absolutely phenomenal for organized labor.
What's Hillary's plans for the affordable health care?
What she's going to do when she came out, she said that she understands now that she sees it, that actually, for one, she's going to get rid of the excise tax. Now, they have extended that. That was supposed to kick in 2018. That's our plans. 99% of us all have what they call a Cadillac plan. Most union members do have that. They have extended it out. They're not going to, that doesn't kick in now until 2020, the excise tax. But Hillary said she'd get rid of the excise tax, and then she also said she sees some of the problems as far as fixing other things without the insurance companies are and how they're just kind of, spinning everything around. But she wants to keep the three good things.
Mandatory provision, where you get IRS penalty for not having any health care?
Right. She would toss that too. And the medical device tax maker. The medical device and then the penalty, yeah. And then once you do those things, it's pretty much it. If nobody does anything on their own, it's going to die on its own. It's actually self-collapsing right now into a black hole because the debits aren't equaling the credits, and plus insurance companies who said, we'll run this. We'll tell you what medicine you have, things like that. So that's where she is. The Republicans, they always say they were going to repeal it, but they never come up with any ideas. The biggest one is vouchers, which that's not good. Here's your voucher. Well, that's for $500, and it costs $10,000 for the policy. And that's part of the problem with the health care bill right now, too. Like, in Pelosi, she always says this to me, Rick, there's 11 million more people signed up. And I said, Nancy, but it's insurance they can't use. I said, so they have insurance, but, because the deductibles are too high. If you buy the cheapest plan is the bronze plan. There's four: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. No, bronze, silver, gold. If you buy the cheapest one, you can get it if you're between 18 and 34 for about probably 60 to 80 bucks a month. But then when you get the policy, and you go, wow, the deductible is what? $10,000 a year? Now, how much, that's not really insurance you can use unless, of course, you have a catastrophic disease or accident, but then you're going bankrupt anyway, because after your $10,000, which you don't have, somebody's going to have to come up with that. And then with the bronze plan, when you get your bill for $100,000, insurance is only paying 40%, 60% of it. You get stuck with the other 40% on the plan too. So see, that's not real. You can run around and say they have the health insurance, and that's what they like to tout, but it's really something that you can't even use realistically in the real world. Any other ones? Okay, thank you very much.